Does everyone remember when people thought Arsenal were having a slow start to the window? Well, things have changed. 6 signings basically done before tour. We've got Gabriel's contract done, Waneri's contract close, Saka and Saliba supposedly in talks, with the likes of Kepa, Mascara, Norgard, Zubimendi, Madueke, and Gyökeres all signed, or at least about to be, as good as. Although, the media briefings out of Lisbon would certainly get you sweating a little bit over Gyökeres, but that's still looking fine. Ben, man, what a difference 3-4 weeks can make. And also, I think this is just a bit of a... What I don't want to do, I don't want to belittle people who are worrying about the transfer window, because I understand January was so appalling that I can totally understand why people were worried about the window. But I always said, let's just wait to see where we are by pre-season. I was never going to freak out before then. And I think it was just a little bit of a we've got Berta in, right? That's what a lot of people wanted. Now let's let him do his work. So I've waffled. I haven't even asked how you are. But it's just interesting how it is a little bit of a... I don't want to say lesson in patience. That's so condescending, because Arsenal have never given us a real reason to feel we should be patient on this front. But this is a new thing now with Berta, and he's delivering.
Yeah, no, exactly that. There's a lot going on, and I think one of the interesting things with Berta is the speed of how quickly deals are getting executed, how many are being operated on at once. And it felt like in previous windows, when we were trying to do a couple at once, it would take months. I think last summer, it was from the Euros just finishing, we heard about Marino and we heard about Calafiori, and we didn't sign them till way later in the summer. And that was it. At first, around then, it was them two and Šeško, Williams, and then none of those happened. There was other midfielder links, none of those happened. Even Eze last summer. So it's the main thing with Berta is the experience of executing deals quicker, and also I've always felt I feel like with transfers you can't be too harsh on the people. I don't, without being in the room, knowing who's making decisions, as a fan, it's hard to then say you're at fault for it, because you don't know who has said no to a deal. Maybe Edu had suggestions and then Arteta was like, no, don't want them. But I don't know without being there. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
But the main thing I feel like with Edu is we had a lot of transfer windows where we went without addressing issues, and many would go by, and we still would be looking at defensive midfielder for 2 years after Douglas Luiz bids on deadline day. So, and now it looks like you got someone who can actually address every area. So, yeah.
Well, that's what's really surprising me. Now, for everyone tuning in, this is going to be a sort of a 25-minute breakdown on Madueke, so we'll talk about him in more detail. But just, because obviously it's the first time we've spoken since all this madness. And sorry, by the way, the pod's out a little bit later. Actually, technically, we've been hitting a few Tuesdays, so it's actually, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on us. But yeah, it's my fault. I've been away. What you're so right. What you cannot do is say, well, the previous windows went wrong because of this, because we weren't there. But what you can do is look at how we've worked under Berta and compare quite directly, especially with the more recent summer window. It's been quicker. It's certainly been more media driven. It's certainly been more multi-target heavy. We've not kind of been... It's not like, oh, we've been hiding the Madueke thing to keep the Eze price down. We've been quite upfront about what we're trying to do. Every club knows what Arsenal are trying to do. But at the same time, we haven't moved to fees we're not comfortable with. And I think that's fair to say with 5 of the 6 signings. But with Madueke, we've spent more than Arsenal fans probably would have liked. So let's talk about why we've done that. Let's go into the Madueke stuff. And I'll give a general take and then ask you your questions. Here's my feeling on the signing and the player. I don't think the left winger market is great, if I'm really honest. And I know we did a podcast where we went through loads of options. When I say it's not great, that's not me saying that there aren't left wingers that will improve us. It's me saying that I actually think Eze, though a more natural 10 out on the left, is actually probably still one of the better players we can get for that position, if not the best player outside of Rodrigo and Williams. I might be wrong. I'd love your take on that in a sec. Madueke is someone who can play on the left, has actually, in my opinion, thrived on the left for Chelsea a little bit, but also provides cover for Saka. And I think in those two players, if Eze comes in, I start to understand the Madueke one a little bit more, because I think you've got two solutions to the left, but you've also got a solution to the backup for Saka. You've also got a solution as another creative right footer in the 10. We've talked about Eze in a bit of detail. We might do another video on him. And it kind of just, that as a pairing makes more sense. As a standalone £52 million on maybe the one winger we're going to sign, then I don't get it as much. Do you, just on the squad building, how do you feel on that take of mine? Do you think that kind of makes sense, or do you not really see them as linked at all, Madueke and Eze?
No, I think the thing with Madueke, I think he provides a actual reliable backup for Saka, which we've never had, for as long as we can think. We've had people like Nelson who've got potential but struggled with injuries, and they struggle with consistency, but also at times Arteta didn't seem to trust him to throw him into games.
Agreed.
And you can argue about whether that's right or not, but the most important thing is, do you have players that the manager trusts to play regularly? Because Saka was playing like against Bolton in the cup or whatever. Like, it's not needed. Like, he can rest those games, and that's not saying Madueke is for just those type of games.
No, of course, yeah.
But having the depth, that means you can make wholesale changes and for the Carabao Cup, and you've still got a team that could go all the way to the semi-final, and then you bring in your main guys to get it over the line, type of thing. That's what a lot of teams have done with these cups. I mean, you look at it's either that they go all in those competitions and in the league they don't do as well, or they don't have Europe to balance with it, like in Newcastle and Palace, or you're getting like Chelsea, who had such a big squad that they could massively rotate. Most of their main players didn't play much in the group stage of the Conference League, and then towards the end they're all coming in, they're a bit more fresh. So he offers that off the right, which is really important. And then on the left, he offers a different profile that we don't have out there. Martinelli's direct, but he's not like a 1v1 type winger. And so you've got options there. You can rotate a bit more. It even spoke before in the middle of the season. I was saying it'll be interesting if we got someone like a Mbeumo on the right, and then you could move Saka more central. I mean, someone like Madueke works in that same way because he's a natural winger, whereas Saka's got a bit more understanding of tempo. He's very good at shielding the ball. He played in midfield for us a little bit when he first broke through. And I'm not saying that will happen, but it's just good that you have different options now, and depth in a lot of areas. And I don't think it then means. I don't think this signing should mean you don't go for a left winger. I think that would make it a bad signing, personally, because he's not completely perfect, and there's issues with his injury record, which we'll get into. But in general, I think it's quite positive.
Yeah, I think Saka can definitely do more in central spaces, getting him nearer to goal. Arsenal fans, some of them get quite offended when you suggest the idea of Saka moving position. But we're talking about getting him even nearer to the things he does best. And even players like Salah. Salah's gone from being a touchline winger at times to being an out-and-out 9, to sometimes just playing, yes, off the right, but in the pockets a little bit more. And I think we could definitely mix up how we use Bukayo Saka. And who knows? Yeah, maybe have both on that side. I think that's something people have thought we might do with one area. If one area ever starts over Odegaard, then you can really get that right central midfielder out wide, so you can bring Saka in. Can you do something with Madueke, but with Saka starting more central position? I once did a video. You just reminded me of it. It was when Villa were thriving under Emery, and which they still are, to be fair. But I did a video which was what Arsenal would look like under Emery today, and I
Oh,
think
cool.
I basically said they'd
Well,
go
I've seen that.
4-4-2 with Saka behind a striker in the way they use Musa Diaby, and I
Yeah.
just thought that's exactly what you do with Bakaya. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a interesting thought for how the rest of the team could adapt to having Madueke in the squad if he's earning his place. Now, on the player himself, do you know what? It's such a shame that we basically have this whole thing about signing Chelsea players because I actually think Madueke is one of the two or three that I rate the most out of the signings we've made. More often than not, I've gone Petr Cech. Like, really? David Luiz? I'm not even Jorginho. Wasn't convinced. Havertz don't even get me started. Now, a lot of them have proved me wrong. A lot of them have proved me absolutely right. Like Sterling, I thought would be a success. He was a disaster. Willian, I thought would be fine. He was a disaster. Havertz and Jorginho, I wasn't keen on. They were good/great. But Madueke, I'm quite excited about, which probably actually, no, not excited about, but my track record isn't great, so that doesn't bode well for him. He's out on the left when he ended the season there for Chelsea. I thought he looked really direct. I thought he looked really comfortable. I think wingers playing on their stronger foot out on that side, they can sometimes look really awkward. I think Martinelli can look a little awkward out there at times. Whereas Madueke looked very comfortable in terms of the way he was shielding the ball. Like his first touch was taking him all the right places. He was able to take players on, not just on the outside, but he was dribbling well on the inside too. So I liked what I saw from him there, but I don't think he'll largely play out there. I think he will be cover out on the right too. But do you think there's any potential for him to earn a starting position out on the left-hand side? Because ultimately it comes down to it. We're spending 52 million on this guy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, firstly, on the Chelsea side, I think just a quick thing on that. I think it makes sense that it's happened and it will continue to happen because of their model of how many players that they do buy. They tend to hoard a lot of players, and there's always going to be opportunities when they have such a high volume of players and such a high turnover of players as well. So there's always going to be someone there that might be of use to us, especially when you're talking about squad players as well. And you can't keep everyone happy. They were signing a lot of left-footed right wingers /10s in a short space of time, and a few of them have gone because they didn't have game time there. So I think there'll always be something there for us. But he's essentially in the squad. If you look at our squad from last season, he's essentially replacing Sterling. So when you think of that as not the guy that starts on either wing, and the guy that you hope to play a lot, he would play more than Sterling because Sterling was
bad.
Loved the guy. You know, he's had an amazing career, but he was pretty useless at times last season.
Yeah.
And that's where Madueke is very different because I think he could actually offer a lot, even in games when we've looked to the bench and thought, who can change this game for us? He's someone that could do that. In terms of left wing, it depends. I think that there's maybe periods of the year where he might play a lot more. He might have a run of starts, maybe over the Christmas period or something. But it depends who we sign on the left, essentially. And if we just sign one more, if we sign two more, I don't know what we're going to do. But let's say we signed Eze. I could see him starting left wing a few games because Eze might play in midfield. And then if you signed Eze and Rodrigo and another left winger, then probably not that much because you give them to that side and you give him and Saka the right side and everyone rotates like that. So, yeah, I mean, the main thing is what he offers as a rotation, but it also means Saka's not starting every single game. It's not saying that Saka's not going to be as important or that it's about making him perform at his optimal level more. And if that means that he rests more so that he can play at a higher level in more games and not be constantly relied on, or, because think of a lot of his games, he has so many touches, he's got all the creative responsibility, he's got to get goals, and then he's being kicked, he's been doubled up on, which should change if we get a proper left winger and a striker. But yeah. So I think Madueke, he'll definitely have periods where he'll start a good few games, and if he impresses in those games, he might take someone's spot for a little bit.
So let's talk about his strengths and weaknesses then. Why are Arsenal spending £52 million on this guy? What's Arteta looking at and going, I can really work with this?
Yeah, I mean, partly with the fee. So from my point of view, it's a lot for me, and he wasn't my number one choice. I'm not going to sit here and say
No.
all that, but at the same time, the outrage about it is just pathetic. It's ridiculous. Like, he's a
Yeah.
very good player, and we've signed a very good player as a potentially is like our fourth winger. Let's see, but is essentially that's what he might be. That is a positive signing in that way. But the reason for it, partly financially as well. Apparently, Chelsea have got a better favourable payment term, so maybe it's spread over more years. So that's partly why we've done business with him a few times. But as a player, he has something that we don't have right now. He's got that maverick nature to him. He's an unexpected player. Like, you don't know if you're a defender come up against him, he's going to be a lot more direct. He's going to constantly try to take you on. In 1v1s, he's definitely, when I look at our current wingers that we've got, you could even argue he's our best 1v1 winger. It's not me saying that Saka's bad in 1v1s compared to him. I just think Saka, he's a more well-rounded threat. He's not all about 1v1s. He's also cutting, whipping across, and he's got more to his game. Whereas I think Madueke is like 1v1 specialist more so.
Right.
And if you hear some of his how he's spoken before about how he likes to play and who his favorite players were and stuff. He's spoken about like wanting to entertain the fans, wanting to take on players, to get off shots, to have moments and stuff like that. And that's exactly what we've been lacking. We've been wanting pace on transitions and someone who can create match-winning moments. And I think he's got a lot of all of that, and the 1v1s as well.
Yeah, the 1v1s definitely stood out to me. The problem is, because I've seen a few people describe him as a sort of Mavericks type winger, and I agree, and I love that, and I think we could do some unpredictability. I think Eze himself would come with some unpredictability and some give me the ball and I'll make something happen. A little bit of instinct to our attack could definitely help. I do worry, and actually I think I could put Gyökeres in this. I do worry a little bit about Arteta stifling their more instinctive traits, Gyökeres, Madueke, in the way that, to be honest, I think he's done with our other forwards, if I'm really honest. I think Saka came through as someone who I thought you could just give him a free role, whether he's out on the touchline on the inside and he'll make things happen. Martinelli, I definitely thought that. I definitely thought you could have him floating into central areas, you could have him dropping deep, but he seems to hug the touchline loads. Trossard, when we signed him, I loved his ability to pick up the ball in zone 14 and just find the top corner and just sort of, again, hover into positions where he could get shots off his left foot, right foot. And again, I see him so often as a touchline winger. That doesn't mean that these guys don't have their moments. I think Arteta, what he wants from his wingers is first and foremost, do the job I need to do tactically. And then when you get to the final third, a little bit like that Henry clip when he was analysing Pep's football, then you can express yourself. I think there's just so much he wants them to do up to a certain point. So I worry about him stifling Madueke a little bit with, like, we're going to do a 30-minute pod on Gyökeres in detail too. But a little bit like with Gyökeres' kind of brute force nature to him, I worry that there'll be a lot of no, I want you to drop deep, I want you to be a wall pass for a midfielder, I want you to give us the extra man in build up, I want you to do all these things, as opposed to the brute force channel running and just roll a ball in behind for me, and I might even just win us a corner of a throw in through pure sheer and want and desire and all that. That's my fear, that these kind of raw elements I think are really good that we're adding to the team. I worry Arteta will go, okay, great, but I want to coach that out of you because I actually need you to do this. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and it's all valid. Because I think when you look at Saka, he used to when he was breaking through, going longer carries as well. He'd carry the ball from deep. Obviously, maybe that's part of his position, being at left back, but that was a big part of it as well. And And with someone like Martinelli, his instinct is to run in behind off the ball, receive the ball in behind like that, and get off a lot of shots. And how we play a lot of the time, he's receiving it to feet and then has to take on a player, which isn't his game, and then whipping in crosses, also not his game. He's improved in some of these areas, but you know, you can see it just doesn't look natural to him. I always said with Martinelli, when you look at him in 1v1s, he looks like he's thinking about it too much. Like he's like, what should I do? Like he does that little thing or whatever. But so I get what you're saying. And I think with Madueke, the one thing I would say is about the personality as well of the people. As when I say with the Mavericks, the reason why I wouldn't call them as much is because not that they're too. It is kind of being too nice, and it's not saying Madueke and Gyökeres aren't nice. It's just they've got a bit more of a cockiness about them, and a bit more of like they want to be the guy to make the difference. And Saki's getting more of that, which is really positive. I think that's what's going to help him level up. But it's the point of what I'm saying is it's like you need those guys that they're not afraid to go against the grain and kind of do something that maybe the manager doesn't necessarily want. But also from Arteta's point of view, I think if he wants to level up as a coach and to win everything, that's part of that next development. But the other side I would say is when you're looking at the past 2 seasons that we've been so focused on like control, it's not me saying that we're not going to be focused on that, because I still think it will be. But you've got to think of it, if it's like you're thinking of percentages, if you're playing the ball to someone in behind who isn't that clinical, or you're playing it to someone who's going to be in a 1v1, like a Martinelli, who's not very good in 1v1s, and you're saying, take them on, why would you give that license to someone that there's such a low success rate from? Because you're essentially saying you're accepting the fact that you're going to turn over the ball and allow them to go and attack the other team. Whereas if you've got someone who the success rate of them taking on a player or finishing in and around the box, the constant runs and then getting off shots and getting corners from it, goals, everything, set pieces, penalties, that there, the higher success rate of it means you're going to play with a faster speed. Add to that someone like Zubimendi in midfield who will help us speed up the tempo a lot as well. He plays those first-time passes a lot. I think you could see us play a lot more like we did in the 2 seasons ago now, was it?
22,
everyone
23.
Says it's 22, 23, that year that everyone says was their favourite. And we played such a direct, quick, bit more fluid football, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think if you look at our team, let's say Eze was the final signing, you've got there you might have him play midfield at times, you might have him play on the left, but you've got several players on the pitch who want to receive the ball in the pockets, on the half turn, want to take on players, want to get off shots, are able to shield off really physical players, take them on and get off shots or playing a through ball. It also means someone like Odegaard is playing the through balls because he's got runners more. He's got more runners and people who are going to constantly be trying to stretch the defence, going like Gyökeres drifting wide. So I think that will make us a lot more direct, and someone like Madueke would thrive in that as well.
Yeah, and actually just sparked another thought, and maybe I'll do a video on the Goonerverse this week about it, which is I felt that Arsenal were very congested by mid-blocks because we couldn't feed the ball into Rice in the pocket, certainly couldn't to Ødegaard, so Rice would drop really far left, Ødegaard would either drop deep or wide, Saka and Martinelli would hug the touchline, and instantly I'm wondering whether if a team tries to squeeze us like that, Gyökeres is loving that space in behind, and Zubimendi will play that pass. And maybe even Madueke will look to make that run off the left a little bit more, but maybe even Martinelli will thrive from it, because I think we saw against Liverpool, and as you just rightly stated, he wants to look for runs in behind. So sometimes it's about saying to another team, well, if you want to drop deep, that's fine, because Ødegaard and Eze are going to get lots of space, and you don't want that. Okay, if you want to squeeze up, then by all means, we're going to feed the ball in behind to Gyökeres, and there is bags of pace in that front three. If suddenly you're picking from Saka, Gyökeres, Martinelli, Madueke, Eze's not slow, right? He's not slow. He's not mega fast.
He's not. He wouldn't be one of the quickest, but he's not slow at all. No.
And I think that's where, and actually even Kai, I think Kai goes under the radar for, I think because he's not a sprinter, but he's got a really good little burst. And I think in 23-24, he was making really good runs off the ball for Erdegaard's little pass in behind. So I think that's the kind of stuff, a little bit like Havertz's goal against West Ham, when, Trossard just clicked the ball over the top. Havertz does have that run in him. That's the kind of dynamic that help get the best out of the team as well. I just want to do a little exercise we did for a player maybe a month ago. I can't remember who it was, probably Zubimendi. And I wanted to, or maybe it was Norgard actually, but I wanted to ask you I want to throw some general kind of attributes at you, and you sort of give me out of 10 where Madueke ranks, what you'd give him as a score for these kind of things, as a Premier League winger. So pure dribbling, taking on a man, what would you give him out of 10?
I guess when you think of dribbling and carrying, it's slightly different. So I'd say an 8. So I'd say carrying is more like a 9. Nice. Yeah, probably 9. But dribbling 8, yeah. Okay,
cool. Carrying 9, dribbling 8, fine, cool. Passing?
Probably like a 7. That's one thing you compare him to Saka, not on the same level. He's not bad, but he's not got that whipped crossing to the same level as Saka.
Nope. Off the ball and work rate?
Again, probably a 7 or 8. Yeah. It's not bad. It's good a lot of the time, but there are some moments you've seen at Chelsea where it hasn't been the best. But I think generally you look at his work rate and it is good.
Yeah. What about, and I'm making ones up here, it's not exactly ones you'd find on Football Manager. What about like positioning, but more like instinct for goal is kind of what I'm saying. That ability to nick a goal at the back post, as Trossard, Martinelli, Saka have done so many times. That will be something that Arteta always asks his wingers to do. What do you think for that?
Yeah, no, I think he's very goal orientated, which is one of the big selling points. So I'd possibly even say a 9. It's not that. Wow. It's not necessarily that his finishing is of
because his numbers aren't great.
Yeah, no, his finishing's still of a good level, but I would say it's the shot. He gets off a lot of shots, and he has got high shot volume. He's got that desire to score. He's got a bit of that selfishness. It's a downside a lot of the time as well, but we do need more of that. I feel like if you look at someone like Trossard, for example, he's the one you could argue in all of our attackers has got that selfishness about him. But he's also the one that's provided a lot of important goals for us because of that. He's the one that's taken the shot when someone else would make that pass, when you're just like, you don't need to do the final pass like that. I always remember that moment with Ozil, that I can't remember which game it was. You might remember when he went through and on the left side of the box, and it was like he could just shoot, but he went to chip it across the box. I'm like, and someone was saying it was like when you've got the wrong controls on FIFA or whatever, you go to shoot and it ends up crossing or what. Yeah. Like, there's too many players like that. I'm like, you don't need to pass there, just go for it. Like, and both Madueke and Gyökeres add that. So that's a big positive.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so you kind of touched on it, but just shooting and finishing in general, what would you give him out of 10?
Yeah, I'd say like an 8 in terms, because I wouldn't say his finishing's like clinical, but he's got a good ball striking off both feet as well. Similar to Saka, like he's taken a lot more shots off his right more recently as well.
Yeah,
it's not completely both footed like a Semenyo, but and he's still got a bias to his left and how he carries the ball, but shooting he uses both.
Okay. Unless you can think of any others, I want to end on something you talk about a lot, which is mentality, personality.
Yeah. This is an interesting one because a lot of people. One of the things I've said with Madueke, and I think this is why it's had such a bad reaction online, is he's one of those players that I think he's a victim of football Twitter kind of making players into memes and and like something to do with their personality that people latch onto and joke about to the point where they're really critical about the player. And you kind of just when they like have a good game, you laugh it off. Like when he scored a hat trick against Wolves, like it became a joke when all 3 goals, was it 3 or did he score 4? I think it was 3.
Yeah.
And all 3 goals really good, but people weren't talking about that. They were talking about his post on Instagram and all that.
Yeah.
Do you know? See what I mean? Where they make a joke about the good things, and then when he has a bad game, it's like, wow, stinker, all of this, all over online. So that's one of the things where I feel like his reputation and the level of the player
it's unfair.
They're like this. But that said, he's got that side to him a little bit where because he's selfish, he wants to do the stuff that others don't and whatever. But at the same time, behind the scenes, anyone that I've spoken to who either has worked with him or has got people that know him, he seems very coachable. Seems like he wants to get better. He's got that desire to get better. He's moved because he wants to play more as well, which is important. So, there's someone there who's got that desire, and they're not just going to sit around on the bench and be happy with it. And he's going to look to compete and push. Because we've also got to bear in mind, probably a big motivation here is the fact that there's the World Cup coming up. So he's going somewhere to play and compete, so he can impress to get in the squad.
Yeah, totally agree.
And we could have quite a lot. I was talking to someone about this. Let's say Ben White gets back in. You've already got Rice and Saka.
Yeah.
You've then got Lewis Skelly.
Yeah.
Then Eze and Madueke join in.
Maybe
maybe Nwaneri gets in as well. Like, that's
a good point.
That's a big chunk of the squad.
Yeah,
which would be weird randomly getting that now. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah. And one thing I do think, just to round off the pod now, and by the way, guys, there is a part 2. There'll be a Gyökeres breakdown later this week, so we can't wait a week to do that one. What I'd say is, I think I'm torn between, I want Arsenal to go and sign the left winger, no questions asked, this is the guy. And if that player, which to be honest, I think the only one on the market that makes me feel that way is Rodrigo. I think if that player became available, or a Barcola or something, I'd say, great, please do that. The reality is, though, I don't think that player is available. Williams signing new deal, Rodrigo doesn't want to leave, whatever. So there's, normally I'd say, is this Arteta sort of just trying to stay a bit too flexible? But there's something I like about Eze and Madueke, between them being 2 different solutions, though I think both can be an upgrade on what we've had. I certainly think Eze can be. And if Madueke is not an upgrade, he's definitely something different. I mean, if Martinez take on a fullback and struggling, Madueke comes on and gives him a completely different problem. So I definitely think we've upgraded for sure in our wider areas if we sign Eze too. But let's see. I think that's quite a flexible way to build the squad, because Saka and Ødegaard have inadvertently been given a little bit of pressure too, which I don't think is ever a bad thing. I think everyone needs competition for places, even his favourite player, Kai Havertz, and we say that jokingly. Even he's now got real pressure, and we'll talk about that on the next pod. Ben, we'll round it off there quite swiftly, because we're going to record about Gyökeres now. Everyone look out for that later in the week. It will drop probably as Gyökeres is announced, or as that's sort of coming up. But that's everything we have to say on Madueke. If we've missed anything, let us know in the comment section below. We'll do we might do some other bits and bobs around the play on the Goonerverse if there's anything else to notice and think about. But big thanks, Ben. Catch you on a bit.
Cheers. Catch you later.